To why you popped.
Sure. My name's Dr. Elam. I'm 38 years old.
Okay.
And I popped my balloon just because you're simply too young. And age isn't really a factor, but you don't know what you want.
How old are you again?
38.
You 38? Oh, yeah. Red flag.
So he's
You
less
you
of
are
a-
very handsome. I wouldn't even thought you were 38.
Of course not. But it's less about being a red flag and more about being a liability.
I get it.
If I were to bring you into my life, you would be a liability.
Right. Do you got kids though?
No.
Can you?
No. You can ask another question now.
I don't even know what to ask you because you don't like me. I'm too young.
It's not,
I mean, if you change your mind, I'm open to it though.
why would you be open to it?
Cause you're handsome for
Sure.
one.
So you only like me
And-
because I'm beautiful.
Just like I'm beautiful.
Yeah, but that's not why I would only like you.
So why would you like me? Cause you didn't answer that.
Because you can bring something and add something to my life. But because you're a liability, you can't
Right.
add anything to my life.
Right.
You would be a liability to everything in my
So
life.
what can I not add to your life? What is that?
You can't teach me anything. You can't help me with my finances in any way. You can't add any intellectual anything into my life. And I can tell that you're triggered, and that's okay.
I'm not triggered, sweetheart.
We
You
can-
are very
we-
handsome.
We can
But-
work through this
but
together.
You
Please
said I
put your
can't
hands
bring
down.
you anything.
And this is why your immaturity will prevent you from being with a real man.
No, I've dealt with real
Because
men
you're not
before.
listening to me and you're trying to talk over
Go
me.
ahead, I'm listening.
Adults have conversations.
I'm listening.
Okay? So if we were to get together, you would be asking me questions like, Dr. Elam, what did you do to acquire everything that you acquired? What did you do to learn everything that you learned? What type of habits and skills do you have that can help me get to where I want to get? You have 2 Airbnb properties. How can we get to 4? How can we get to 8?
I already know how to do that. My dad,
Next contestant, please.
please.
okay.
Yo, what up? So, this guy, you can see he's clearly triggered by this woman, and he's trying to trigger her at the same time. He starts off by saying, "You're too young," and that's fine. He rejected her on that basis. You're too young, okay? But then, when she asked him, "How old are you?" and he said 38, and she was like, "Oh, red flag." You could see if you look at his body language and his facial expression, he's like, hold on, wait a minute. I rejected her because I think I am more superior to her, but she's just now rejected me, stating indirectly that I'm too old. That caught him off guard because all of a sudden it turned from "you're too young" to it's not necessarily about age, but more about you being a liability. Now, all that came from her saying, "Oh, basically that's too old for me." That's what she's saying. I didn't think you were older. I thought you were younger, which I don't know why she thought that, because he does look like he's 38, but he looks like he's 40, to be honest. He looks like he's in his 40s. I'll be honest with you, he does. But he got really taken aback by that. I think he didn't expect to be rejected in that manner by someone he clearly feels more superior to, but she clearly rejected him, right? And I don't know whether that was a retaliation move because he rejected her based on age, so she threw the same like for like back. I said, "Well, you're 38, you're basically old, I'm 22, it's like you're almost twice my age." That doesn't make any sense to her, which is fair play. That's perfectly fine. But he took that offensively and then proceeded to say that you are a liability. It's not so much about age, but more about you being a liability, which I guess what he's basically trying to say is you're just too immature for someone in my life, my intellectual life, my academically fulfilled life, my professionalism, that you would come into my life and just want to ruin it. And that was unnecessary. And he then went on to say, okay, your immaturity is going to pretty much prevent you from meeting a real man. And I find that quite rich for him to say that. For someone like him to say a real man. Basically, he's trying to exhibit masculine energy. That's what he's trying to portray or convey to her. I'm not really getting masculine energy from him, right? And I don't even like to use this whole masculine, feminine, that the whole, internet likes to use, because we're all going to exhibit levels of masculinity and levels of femininity in terms of being bold and strong and soft and meek. We're all going to have points in our lives where those traits are going to prevail. And I guess it's just a balance between which one is greater than the other. Are you exhibiting more masculine traits than you are more feminine traits? So we'll use that just for the sake of the analysis. But right, so firstly, you're engaging in an argument with someone who is less accomplished than you in your eyes, right? And she's young, right? And then not only that, she's a woman, right? So your general perception is that the man's supposed to be more superior or stronger than the woman, all things being equal. So to me, he didn't need to have all that to say. He could have just said, I popped my balloon because I think you and me are not on the same page, right? I don't think we'll be on the same page. And then if it becomes the why not, because I'm 38 years old, I'm a doctor, there's things that I have in my life that I don't think I could bring you into. I think you're more young. I think you're a bit too young for me at the moment. And I don't see us being compatible in that sense. That's it. If she proceeds from that point onwards, then you have every right to say, you know what, I don't see us moving anywhere forward. To be honest, I think you're a bit too immature for me, and I'm going to leave it at that. That's all you need. That's all it really does need. But he persisted with the idea that you are a liability. You add no value to me. And you're saying that to someone and you know nothing about them. That's what I find extremely... He was trying to be very antagonistic. He didn't need to be that. It was just literally to exert that force on her that, listen, you're not on my level. And that is where the feminine energy is coming into play. Because one, if you're an intellectual type of guy, you should be slow with your response, but quick to absorb the information. So he had little information about her other than she has 2 Airbnbs and that she's a young girl, but he had so much more to respond onto that. So and she asked him, do you have any kids? She was clearly trying to bracket him under a stereotype. She got it wrong. That's why the conversation fell to pieces. But then he immediately, you can just tell, he's looking at her through the lens of, you probably come from a single mother, right? Not knowing she actually has a father. And if she has a father, maybe you should speak to her with a little bit more respect, because at the end of the day, her father is taking care of her by setting her up with property and that she's using for Airbnbs. So who is her father then? Those are the questions you need to be asking. So who is your father? Who, like, he must be somebody that cares about you a lot to want to put you in the best financial position at such a young age. He's not asking those sort of questions. Those are questions that smart men ask, right? Because traditionally, when men look for women, and especially in the old times, when men were looking for women and women were looking for men, the men predominantly wanted to marry into the woman's family. So the families tend to have a lot of prestige behind them, or be of worth, or be of value. The men wanted to marry into those families, not women that are coming from poverty and stuff like that. Men that were accomplished didn't want to have a woman, even if the man was going to be looking after the woman full time and providing for her and so on and so forth. They weren't doing that off the premise that she came from poverty. It was more of, okay, you come from a respectable family, so therefore you're going to have a level of respect for the mother and especially for the father as a man. So it's going to be man to man. Now you're going to take the responsibility that I've put upon my life for the last, 18, 19, 20 something years. You're now going to take that responsibility off my hands and now look after my daughter. And I've done the best I can to shape her into the type of woman that you would desire to marry. Now continue the journey with her. these are very substantial and robust traits to want to have from a masculine man. Not, I don't want you, you're a liability. If you two are not on the same timeline, there's nothing more to say. It's just, she's clearly a liability to me. Okay, fine. Sorry, you're too young. I don't think me being 38 and a doctor and having the accomplishments I have in my life and the intellectual circles that I have in my life, I don't see you fitting into my world comfortably. I see you being uncomfortable, and I see myself being a bit uncomfortable with that. And I think the age gap as well maybe is a bit too much for us. We may not have much in common. We may not be able to relate to each other, and on that reason, that's why I popped my balloon. That simple. How do you come back from that? How do you shut that down and be rude? You can't, because if from that point onwards you are now showing the audience why you're not worthy of being picked, because he's rejected you and he's dismissed any counterclaims. It's like, I'm not interested. But this guy is rejecting her on the basis of calling her something that he knows not what she is. We don't know if she's a liability. She could have probably been one of the best assets to him. She could probably teach him how to get Airbnbs and properties and real estate. She's a property manager. Probably she could help him. And he doesn't even know that. Maybe she might know something that he doesn't know, but he's not willing to entertain that. Why? Because he sees himself as an intellectual, academic, professional guy who's more superior than her. Also, I find it quite embarrassing that, you know, he's there and really stripping this girl down to pieces about how much he really is not interested in her. And then you got these two chuckle brothers on either side of him, just giggling and smirking at her expense for no reason. I just don't understand why they're doing it. It's like they're little girls, right? It's like they're two little girls just giggling, like the guy in the green shirt and the other guy with the black jacket looking apparel. And it's like, what is the point? I don't understand. That's not masculine. That's not manly. You're there, and this guy is very young, immature, kiddie behavior, high school behavior. A guy is, you know, putting a verbal onslaught on a young girl, and that he's substantially older than, and you guys are just there laughing and giggling and cackling like hyenas. It's just a bit embarrassing. I don't think that's a very manly thing to do, right? And you can even see the host, she's a bit embarrassed by the treatment that she's getting, but you know, she has to be unbiased as well and just carry on with the program. But you can see she probably felt some way about that because it was unnecessary. And if it was the other way around and it was a woman doing it to a guy and the girls were laughing like that, I would feel the same type of way. I'd be like, well, it was not necessary. Why? Like, what's the need to try and embarrass this person to the point whereby everyone wants to find the opportunity to have a laugh at that person's expense? It's totally immature, and it just shows the level of immaturity and femininity that they exhibit then. But then they want to call themselves masculine men. It's a bit embarrassing, and I didn't think there was any need for that, to be honest. Anyway, it is what it is. Like, comment, subscribe. Marco Brown here, unbiased review, honest opinion. These are my thoughts. Come back for the next one. Let's go.